Getting compared to Tupac is something most rappers only dream of. But for Soulja Slim, it wasn't a compliment. It was a warning. Just like Tupac, Soulja Slim had a meteoric rise. From the trenches of New Orleans to having one of the largest fan bases of his time, he was set to become the next big thing. But right when it felt like he was finally winning, he was gunned down in cold blood.
A man's dead after an overshooting in New Orleans East. Police say this happened just about 11 o'clock last night on Terra Lane.
Right in front of his mother's lawn. But the story doesn't end there. In fact, that's where things get twisted. Since then, a lot of dark stories have come up trying to explain what really happened.
People don't even know Slim Smoke is dead for one of them songs in the years later. And everybody tired of it. You know what I'm saying? We say if a nigga run down on me with a handgun, I might just stand one, but not too many.
Like when Terrence said it was Get Back when Soulja Slim had attempted to get at one of his homies.
He should have setting that house on fire.
Yeah, and the dude got away. So the dude felt like, man, I got money, you playing with me?
But to fully understand his story, we gotta go way back and see how it started. Buckle up, this is one of the most intense, gripping, and yet inspiring stories hip-hop has ever known. Before Soulja Slim ever picked up a mic, he was James Tapp Jr., a skinny kid growing up in one of the most dangerous places in America, the Magnolia Projects of New Orleans.
This is the biggest week of the year in New Orleans, attracting tourists from all over the country. But as Scott Pelley reports tonight, the celebrations mask a festering crime problem in a city that's been...
Where some kids had jungle gyms, James had crack vials and chalk outlines. Raised by his mother, Linda, who did what she had to, working multiple jobs, running dice games, anything to keep the lights on. James saw hustle not as ambition, but as survival. His father wasn't really in the picture, and in a neighborhood where father figures were rare and funerals were routine, the streets stepped in as his teacher. By his early teens, James was already getting into trouble. Not the kind of trouble you outgrow, the kind that sticks to your name in court documents.
Magnolia Slim, you know what I'm saying? God bless his soul, you know.
People know what Soulja
yeah,
Slim,
they know him as Soulja Slim. Like, you know, at first we was snorting powder, you know what I'm saying? Everybody tooting up. He graduated, he made a statement. He went from snorting coke to heroin.
Slim went to Cohen Senior High, but dropped out in 11th grade. School couldn't hold his focus, not with the streets pulling one way and music pulling the other. He was already deep into writing and rapping. By 1993, he was performing as Magnolia Slim, showing up at local venues and block parties. KLC, who DJ'd most of these parties, kept hearing the crowd call out Slim's name. Eventually, he signed him to Parkway Pumpin', an independent label he ran that also featured acts like Mystical and The Hound. In 1994, Slim dropped his solo debut Soulja for Life through Parkway Pumpin' and Hype Enough Records. It sold 90,000 copies independently, a strong start for a young street rapper. A year later, he followed it up with a 4-track EP called Dark Side. At the time, Slim was starting to get some shine, but the South itself was also changing. A new sound was coming up, and No Limit Records, led by Master P, was at the center of it. What most people don't know is how Slim first crossed paths with No Limit. One night, still more focused on the streets than music, Slim decided to rob a guy. But he didn't know that the man he was robbing was actually one of Master P's producers. Word got back to P, but instead of beef, things took a different turn.
People don't know how I met Soulja Slim. I met Soulja Slim was crazy. So I met, you know, me being a street dude, I met Soulja Slim. He was trying to rob one of my producers. And he didn't know. And so when he see me, I'm like, homie, really? So he see me and my other homie, and he was like, man, you better get up out of here with that. You know how it is. He was like, no, big dog, I ain't know that was your people. I'm trying to get my life together. I ain't getting high no more. Whoop, whoop, whoop. I'm trying to do music. So I'm like, man, that man tripping. You know, some real New Orleans street stuff. So I'm like, man, give me your number when you get your stuff together. I'ma holler at you.
Master P saw the talent, the rawness, and brought Slim in.
But for us, Soulja Slim was that next thing that we could relate to somebody that's really out there thugging, living.
By 1998, Slim had changed his name to Soulja Slim and dropped Give It To 'Em Raw with No Limit. The album did well, and it looked like he was about to blow up. But just when things were picking up, he got locked up for armed robbery. And just like that, 3 years of his prime, gone. Still, Slim wasn't wasting time. In prison, he filled tablets with lyrics, not just songs, blueprints. When he got out in 2001, he immediately dropped The Streets Made Me. But at the time, No Limit was already crumbling. Financial issues led to Slim feeling used by P and the label. Slim went on to drop out of the label and would even fire some diss tracks at Master P and No Limit. An example of this is during one of his concerts. By the way, if you want to know more about No Limit's downfall, be sure to check out our previous video, How Silk the Shocker Became the Worst Rapper Ever. Learning from what happened with No Limit Records, Slim decided to make a bold move in 2002. He started his own label, Cutthroat Committee, and immediately dropped his third album, years later, independently. What's interesting about this album is people said Slim spoke of his demise in one of the tracks.
People don't even know Slim spoke his death up in one of them songs in the years later, and everybody tired of him. You know what I'm saying? He said if a nigga run down on me with a handgun, I might just name one, but not too many.
There are no records of how the 18-track album did, but it was generally well received, which is why he followed up with what would be his last album, years later, a few months after. The album featured some of his best work to date. He also teamed up with Juvenile for Slow Motion. Released on Juvenile's Juve the Great. After Slim's death, the track hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, making him one of the few artists with a posthumous chart topper.
You have any suggestions or any advice for maybe some young impressionable cats out there? Don't get involved in the foolishness, Lil. I'm trying to tell you, Rosie, I'm right now. You get involved in foolishness, you might go through that thing you can't handle.
On that fateful night, Slim had a show he was supposed to perform at. As usual, he had his homies and members of the Cutthroat Committee with him, like Magnolia Levy, who vividly remembers that night.
That night we had a concert. I can't remember where the concert was, but I was running late.
They were in the Gentilly neighborhood at the time, not far from where Slim's mother lived. Slim asked his crew to go grab what they needed for the show, food, clothes, the usual, and to meet him after so they could head out together. Now by himself, Slim decided to make a quick stop at the store around the corner from his mama's house. After grabbing what he needed, he drove back. And just as he stepped out of the car, an assailant opened fire, hitting him 4 times.
4 shots. One right here, 2 on the chest.
Slim's crew weren't far, just around the corner. They heard the shots, rushed to the scene, and found Slim lying on the ground, fighting for his life, with his mother sobbing as she tried to help her son. Surprisingly, this wasn't the first time Slim had been shot, so the crew stayed hopeful he'd pull through.
And he called and said he'd been shot. So, we just thought that, well, he'd be okay. He'd been shot before. But of course, this time wasn't that time.
Medics arrived and rushed him to the hospital, but due to massive blood loss, Slim passed away. He was just 26. On December 31st, 2003, police arrested 22-year-old Garrell Smith in connection with Slim's murder. They found a stolen police pistol on him with the serial number scratched off. Ballistics matched it to the bullets that killed Slim, but no witnesses would testify. By 2008, Smith had been arrested for 3 more murders. In each case, charges were dropped. Again, no witnesses. The murders, including Slim's, went cold. On August 13, 2011, Garrell Smith was found shot to death. Slim's funeral drew a crowd from all over New Orleans. He was buried wearing his Cutthroat Committee chain and the same outfit from the album cover of Give It To Them Raw. Many, like Terrence, one of Slim's closest homies, later said the shooter was someone Slim had previously clashed with. Allegedly, Slim once caught this guy at a house with a girl Slim knew and tried to set the place on fire with him inside. The man escaped through a wall and managed to flee. They wouldn't cross paths again until that fateful night. When we talk about Slim's legacy, we can't forget his family. He left behind one child, his son, Lil Soulja Slim, who's been proudly carrying on his name. Just like his dad, Lil Slim raps about street life with raw emotion and real stories. He's made songs like Feel Me, honoring his father while building his own name in New Orleans hip-hop. Slim kept his love life private and was never known to have a wife, but his biggest influence lives on through his son. Not just in blood, but in the music too. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like and comment below which artist we should cover next.